Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 617, recorded live on Saturday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, All Hallows Eve to everyone.
Ooh, scary.
um, this week I'm joined by Arkat.
As if you couldn't tell, or as if they couldn't tell. Hey,
Uh,
everybody. And I guess I'll say that when I'm plugging something. So, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
Also, I'm your host, Patrick. This week's screenshot, Maryam Table poses for a seasonally appropriate screenshot in the 486 screenshot of the week. I'm going to assume that's somewhere in the Underdark Drow area.
I have no idea. It's just very, very dark. I
It is pretty dark.
wish it was a little bit more light. It was little, had a little more light in it.
We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyberbears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on social media. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. Or you can check out DDOcast.com with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we're going to be talking about Update 47. We'll do our review show, like doing reviews of the different updates. And let's see, we will be doing, I'll talk about game and community news and all of that fun stuff. Right, with that, hey, let's talk about the game news. What there is. There's not a whole lot of game news this week, but we did get. Jerry talked a little bit about Hardcore Season 4. Mostly just about someone asked, "Hey, when's the next season of when's Hardcore Season 4 gonna happen?" And the answer to that was as follows: the next season of Hardcore League has not been scheduled, but surely will not be. Let me start over. The next season of Hardcore League has not been scheduled, but surely will be coming in the future. Currently, we have a lot on our plate between Feywild, Night Revels, and the rest of work we are doing, so we're giving the Hardcore League a small break. When it comes back, we'll probably figure out a slightly different schedule for it, but there's nothing to announce today.
You know what that tells me? That tells me Hardcore's not going as well as the last season didn't go nearly as well as the first season or first two seasons did.
Really?
So they're well, I mean, it really sounds like they're just from what Jerry wrote, it sounds like they're really considering whether to keep going with it. I mean, they're being very nebulous. I mean, he would have said, "Oh, well, it's definitely going to have it. We just don't know when." And that would have been much more substantial, than what he just said. I'm wondering if they're going to have one.
That's interesting because that is about 180 degrees of what I would have said. But I mean, because he just said,
It's cutting into their autos boxes revenue. I mean, they're not going to sell autos boxes during that time period. So it's got to be cutting into some of their revenues.
I mean, it says will surely be coming in the future when it comes back. I don't feel like there's any question that Hardcore will be back. I think you could certainly make a strong argument that they're not so sure about the timing in terms of, was it too frequent?
Right.
Would be kind
Well,
of.
believe me, if it was a real big moneymaker for them, believe me, they would have it scheduled. They would know when it's going to come back because they're going to try to fit in as many as they could in a year to bump up their revenue. I mean, I think it's as simple as that.
Interesting. I think the talk about a different schedule for it, I thought was kind of interesting. Like maybe they're going to tone it down to 2 months or something like that. I'd be curious to see. I would expect that if you were able to kind of look at when or like the money and how it gets spent over time on hardcore, I would presume that it's going to tail off. Like more
You mean
people.
like it'll be more over the first 2 months of the hardcore
Yeah.
season and tail off towards over that third month?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that makes a certain amount of sense.
Because
So
at this
maybe they'll
point, I
just
think most people who are like really in it for hitting the benchmarks, like they hit it within 2 months, right? Like
I mean like the cloaks and stuff.
yeah, the 5K
Yeah.
favor, the
Hmm.
Reaper points, you can do that in a month.
Okay.
Um, and when I say that, I think even an average player, if uh, can probably do that in a month or two, right? Somewhere in that 1 to 2 month range. Uh, so yeah, the schedule part is kind of interesting to kind of toy with that a little bit. Um, I I certainly don't mind that they're taking a break.
Well, neither do I, because I'm hoping that makes a you know well, I don't I was going to say I'm hoping it makes a difference on the live servers. Well, it would. I mean, there'd be more people on the live servers
Sure.
to do things like raids and so forth.
Although I think they have said this in the past, and I think I kind of agree with them. I don't think hardcore draws as many people as you think it does away from the live servers. And
Well,
what I mean by that is, uh, there's a lot of people that play more because of hardcore. Like you might lose, they might lose 5 hours of playtime in a week on live servers and spend 20 hours on hardcore or something like that. I think that's a fairly I'm not saying that people don't, jump ship and go to hardcore league and pull their time away from live servers. I get that happens. Um, I'm also not entirely sure. So, like one of the one of the demographics that I think you look at that is more vocal about, oh, you're pulling players away from the live servers are players kind of more in you and I circle of being kind of more of that end game rating, that kind of thing. And for sure, people like, including me, have taken time away from live and gone and played on hardcore.
right.
Um, but I don't feel like that's a lot of people in that circle either.
Okay.
Um, but that's
But
kind
you
of
have much
anecdotal.
more. You have much. Well, you have much more experience in hardcore than I certainly do. So you know what the population is like much better than I do. So I'll take your word for it.
Um, I don't know. Hardcore season is here. I don't think it's going away. And I think it's good for the game in the long run. I mean, it's kind of a pro con thing too, right? Like, does it impact the live servers? Absolutely. Sure, no question. Is the benefit of the game bigger than that? I think so.
Do you think that they would? So you already said that you think that they're looking at maybe shortening the seasons.
It's a
Do you think
guess.
they'd also could consider maybe reducing the number of seasons in a year from? I don't, it looks like they're doing it maybe like 3 or 4, seasons in a year space. Do you think they can maybe reduce it to like maybe 2 or 3? So you'd have like half a year or less of hardcore going on.
So there's a couple things I think I would say to that. Um, they did 3 in a little over a year, I think, right?
Okay.
Maybe not. Well, depends on how you want it. I guess not. So it was 3 months the first season.
Hmm.
There was a month of after party, which I don't really think of as being in season per se, right?
Sure. Sure.
Uh, so there was the first one was 3 months, and then there was a month of after party, which might have got extended a little bit. I don't remember. And then there was 3 months of season two, so that was 9 months.
Right.
And
Well,
then
with
there
an
was
with an after party.
with an
Oh,
after party.
yeah.
Uh, and then the next season was like 1 or 2 months after. So they did have 3 seasons within a year, but that third season did extend past that year.
Okay.
If I'm kind of doing all this math off the top of my head, but it was longer than a year that we had 3. And it's hard for me to guesstimate. Do people think of like, oh, the after party? Are they thinking of that as being in season, or like considering it within that metric of how long hardcore is open?
Right.
I don't think so, because you can't really. I mean, you don't really do anything during that
No,
time,
you
right?
just
I'm
no,
not
you
even
just do
sure if you can
your
actually run
silver and your
quests or not.
gold rolls, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
wait till the absolute last day to transfer your tunes to
I do it the day
live
before,
server.
and just to make sure I get it off.
Right.
But yeah. Speaking of which, the after party. Well, we're on that note. The after party for season 3 is supposed to end November 3rd, which is this week.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
I'm going to emphasize supposed to,
Okay.
because we haven't been able to do transfers off of hardcore for, I think, 3 weeks now.
At least.
So probably that's going to be extended. That would be my assumption. They said they would probably extend it if there were still issues. But unless they get transfers turned on, like, but even then, it's like 3 days. Come on, like
Right.
they're not going to turn them on before Monday,
Right.
because it's the weekend.
Right.
Those people probably aren't working, and nor should they be. I mean, guys, take a
Right.
weekend. And so that means that you turn it on Monday, which is the 2nd, and then you have 2. Like, no, they're gonna extend. Like, you have to extend it at this point, right?
At least a week.
Yeah.
Get extended by at least a week. Yeah.
Whenever they turn it on, give us a week. That seems pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of frequency, so going back to kind of frequency, so we had 3 seasons in a little more than a year. I think it's probably 14 months. I think is about when it went. I think there's a lot of other things that kind of go into that, though. My sort of pseudo expectation is they probably you probably don't want to have hardcore and like a new expansion at the same time.
No.
Right? Because you want to drive sales and the new expansion, and one of the ways you can do that is get people to run it.
Right.
If you give them this competing thing, then that's kind of impedes that.
Right.
So I think that's part of what's going on as well. And I even kind of theorized that, when we were talking about Hardcore Season 3, why is Hardcore Season 3 so much sooner to Season 2 than it was Season 1? And one of the things that I said was that they probably want to get that Hardcore Season wrapped up so that they can start releasing Fables of the Feywild stuff, right? And we talked about Update 47, which we're going to review later, was so much later than we kind of thought it was going to be, and even seems like the devs thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I really think that part of that was because it got lumped into the Fables of the Feywild pre-purchase, but I think they really wanted, they didn't want to release a new race and the Illusionist tree and all the pre-purchase stuff before Hardcore Season 3 ended. So you move Hardcore Season 3 up a month and a half, 2 months, and that gives you more of a window to release the pre-purchase, the pre-order stuff. I think that was the intent. I think obviously they got pushed back a little farther than they thought they were going to be. So I think that kind of goes into it too, right? Like, they haven't scheduled it because they probably want to see what sales of Fables of the Feywild look like, and kind of try to time Hardcore Season 4 for, people have, the purchasing of Fables of the Feywild is tapering off, so now we can get back to Hardcore Season 4. Maybe give it a little bit of time, right? Let Fables of the Feywild kind of come out, give people a little bit of time to digest that. Also fill back up their coffers, as it were, to be ready to buy points to go spend in hardcore. I mean, hope that doesn't sound like too corporate-y,
Well, well, no,
or
it's
nefarious corporate-y, but
no. It's exactly what they should do. I mean, they should
mhm,
definitely plan it out to maximize their revenue. They're a business. That's what you're supposed to do.
yeah. Uh, and I think it'll, in the long run, I think that's the right play, right? Like, let
Sure.
let the expansion come out, let people run the expansion with high numbers of people, and when it, give it a month or two, and some of those people, particularly ones that are really hardcore about hardcore, will, all right, I farmed all the gear out of Fables of the Feywild. Now I'm waiting for the next thing, and while that I'm
Right.
waiting for the next thing, hey, hardcore's here,
Hey,
right?
hardcore. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. By the way, you now make me reconsider my initial thought about it. Hardcore maybe going away.
I
It
can't
makes a lot
imagine it
more sense
would.
the way you term things, the way you put it.
I I would not be shocked if they were to release the numbers, and they won't. If you look at the
No.
revenue for the year, like I would be shocked if Hardcore Season 3 did not make more money than any other server.
Really?
I
Okay.
don't think so. Um,
I just
Now
thought people would be tired of the novelty of it, and they would be looking to do other things.
the one thing that's probably wrong about that is I'm probably underestimating how many people buy Autos boxes, or
Mm,
how many Autos boxes they buy, which I think is
right.
probably the thing that's going to put another server over the top. But I mean, I think hardcore drives sales for character based things, because people buy Supreme tomes and stuff on characters
Right.
over
Sure.
there. Um, Extra inventory space, bank space. I think it drives some extra
Magnet
class
pots.
and race sales that
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
someone wouldn't necessarily get. Um, or even like the enhancement trees, right? The universal enhancement trees, the ones that you can purchase separately. Um, because you don't want to have to get the favor to then make your Vishtani build, right? Like, you just
Right.
want to
Where you
own
want that right off the bat.
Vishtani,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so I think probably what I should reorient my statement to say, hardcore drives those kind of sales more than any other server, because you're brand new, you don't have it,
You
so
don't have anything. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And a lot of consumables as well.
I mean, I'm personally still waiting for. I never bought Artificer, and uh, boy howdy, the next time that goes on sale, I'm buying it because of hardcore. And if hardcore season 4 comes before it doesn't go on sale, or before it does go on sale, I might buy it anyways,
Mhm.
because the build that I want to do on hardcore next. Not saying that I necessarily want to play hardcore season 4. I'm not sure. We'll see what the timing is. Um, but the next thing that I want to do has Artificer in it. So, there's
Got to have artificer.
yeah, exactly. Um, so
Well, you can want to get the Kenneth favor of you
on
don't do
hardcore,
Lord of Blades on Elite and on Hardcore.
um, not particularly. Also, if I was trying to do the favor, I probably wouldn't do it that way.
Hmm.
Because if you do the three, if I remember correctly, if you do the three quests, you can do the all of the challenges and get like 3 stars, and I think that gets you to Artificer.
Don't you need like
I might be wrong
120
on that.
favor on House C to get the favor, or is it 80?
Maybe it's either, well, it's 75 and 150 are the two tiers. I just can't remember.
Yeah, but Kenneth is different. House Kenneth, the tiers are different.
Are they?
It's like 40. It's like you need 40 to get the first level of, and you get so when if you're a crafter, you need the crafting things that
Mm-hmm.
the little doohickeys that allow you to craft certain things with the guy up there in the floating platform. Yeah, I think you
Right.
need like 40 favor for that, and
It's 50
God, I
favor
think
for the
so.
crafting stuff and
Is
150
it?
for the
Okay.
Artificer.
All right. I'm even thinking of a
I mean,
different
you're
house
right.
then.
It is less than 75. So,
Okay.
I'm trying to think of how much. remember when I did it, I only had to get like 2 or 3 stars, like an average of like 2.5 stars of all of the challenges.
Hmm.
I do not remember if that was with or without Lord of Blades and Master Artificer.
Okay.
And the answer to your question is, do I want to do those on hardcore? Maybe. Depends on how many lives I have,
There you go.
right? Like that's the thing that, and we talked about when we did the hardcore postmortem. Like one of the things I really loved about, hey, here's some extra lives, is it really opened up what people were willing to do, and it was fun to see people do things like the Shroud, or
Right.
people did Master Artificer and Lord. Well, they couldn't do Lord of Blades because it was closed at the time. Um, Baba's Hut. I think people might have even done a Strahd, although I don't know if that's true. But people were willing to do more challenging things, which was really
Sure.
fun to see.
Sure.
Um,
Oh, hopefully, if they do season 4, well, I guess they will, but hopefully they'll fix the issue where somebody rezzed and they died and they rezzed them and they were rezzed automatically and then they died right away again. Hopefully that will be
um,
fixed because
I would assume that's
uh,
with
you
Death
know
Pact.
I'm not really well. No, so if you had my understanding was that so you'll say you reached ninth level, so you had an extra life, right? And
8,
then
but yeah.
you were or whatever the threshold was. But you got your extra
Mm-hmm.
life, and you were bozacking around, in the sewers or wherever, and you died. And as my understanding is when you die, you get rezzed automatically. Is that correct?
No,
Okay.
it's not correct. The only way that death is different is if you don't have a life, an extra life, you go to the land of the lost souls.
Right.
There were issues with if you disconnected and died in a disconnected state, you would die without the extra life buff on you. So those wouldn't be considered, and you would get sent to the
Oh,
land of lost souls.
I see.
There is also, and I don't know if this is still the case, but there was an issue. There's been a kind of a long-standing issue with Death Pact, where some effects will kill you, and you'll actually die twice, and it will take
Right.
away your Death Pactness. Um,
Oh,
that's
okay.
been around for long before hardcore.
Okay.
Because I don't tend to use that. I don't tend to use Death Pact very often anymore. I used to use it a
Hmm.
lot more. Now I kind of tend only to use it in raids where there's a death timer, like a death timer, and I'll
Right.
usually. So like an example would be Product Nemesis. Like I'll typically kind of hold on to it until you get to the end phase, right? Because if you wipe in the first 5 minutes, oh whatever, you just come back in, right?
It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
But if you've been in there for 20 minutes and you get to the end, you want to complete. And then what
Yeah.
happens is I just forget to cast. Because I'm looking through my buffs, like, do I want to cast Death Pact now? No, I'll wait. And then we'll finish the raid, like, I never cast Death Pact. Oh, well. Or I'll die, and I'm like, I didn't cast Death Pact.
I didn't cast it. Yeah. Sorry.
That's usually how that goes.
Sorry, I screwed up the raid, guys.
Um, so,
Right.
but those are kind of the two things that I maybe what you're talking about.
Yeah, that the way that I read it on the forums is like people were dying, consecutively. They were being raised and then they would die immediately, and they would lose their lives. But I think probably the disconnecting, what I conflated in my head was probably a combination of the two. Of dying while you're disconnected and the double dying because of Death Pact.
I mean, we've all seen people take a res in a bad place and die
Oh
immediately,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So and I know someone I don't want to call him out or anything, but I know someone was talking about who spent a lot more time on season 3 than I did. There was a group that was really pushing, how much Reaper XP or favor or something to that effect, like a static group, and they
Hmm.
were doing really well, like top 5 of the boards, of one of the other boards, if not both, and
Hmm.
then died in twice in 15 seconds and was done.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, that
Well,
happens.
that's that. Let's go back to live.
um, anyways, that was a much longer rabbit trail for Hardcore Season 4. We have made the game news 20 some odd minutes long already, and that literally is the only part of new
But we're
news
not
other
done
than
yet.
bugs.
We still have bugs to talk
Yeah, sure.
about and stuff.
Male bugs. Male Razor Claw shifters appear to be encountering a bug with Supreme Cleave. They're going to get that fixed for update 48. If you'd like to know what's supposed to look like, the female Razor Claw shifters do not have this issue. There does appear to be a bug in its timing. Also, it's the timing the attack portion after the animation finishes, and so the same time the animation plays. We'll get that fixed as well. And Stunning Blow has a similar issue. And this will probably come up later when I start talking about Razor Claw shifters in my review.
Okay. Just to say, I haven't actually seen the issue. I have a male Razor Claw, but I haven't. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the cleaving type stuff. Nor have I done Stunning Blow stuff. So
I actually have a Razor Claw shifter at the moment. That's what the past life I'm on. And it is full barbarian, but I did not take Supreme Cleave for reasons.
Right. Yep. Same here.
See, favored souls, Grace of Battle is not working with non-standard favored weapons. It's a known issue, and they plan on fixing for a future post-Feywild patch.
Yeah, too bad all you charisma-based favorite souls.
Oh, what, like 20 of them?
I don't know. I've got a favorite soul, but he's a melee favorite soul, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect me that much.
All right. That'll bring us to bonus days. Is a 5% Reaper XP boost through November 1st, so through tomorrow. The sales honor your guild. You can get 20% off of Astral Shards, Guild Renown, 20% off Astral Shards and Guild Renown Elixirs, 50% off of Guild Charters and Guild Airship Beacons. Can we just slip another plug in for, hey, let's fill out the boat with guild amenities?
We still have some empty spots in our boat, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nice.
Like, hey, here's a thought. Maybe like one of the large amenities could be an instant transport to the expansion hubs.
The expansions, yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean, that seems simple. I don't feel like that negates the usefulness of the teleport items. Because you can it's still more convenient to use those, but that's an idea. We've had other things in the past. I'm sure people can come up with something. I don't remember how many slots are open, but I know there's openings. Like, let's flush that out a little bit, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Be nice.
Let's see.
By the way, in the last point about the Grace of Battle, the reason why I don't have a problem is because my favorite soul is a blade forge to use as a great sword. So, alternate favored weapons don't apply to me. So that's really what I meant to say. But anyway, sorry.
I wonder if it works with the if you had the Lord of Blades weapon, if it would
the spear of the Mournlands.
Yeah, I wonder if you would have issues with that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I've been thinking about a build around the spear of the Mournlands, and this will give me pause until it's fixed.
The coupon code, you can get 5 lasting potion of resist Sonic plus 20. The coupon code is stop Sonic through November. All of those sales are through November 5th. Right.
Boy, is it I guess it's better than +2 Thieves Tools.
What's funny is I don't they've done the resistance a few times. I don't think I've seen the Sonic one yet. So
yeah. Well,
I mean, hey, there's people who can use it. I don't think they have a minimum level on them, so.
Yeah, it's I was thinking actually this is better than the buffs and the ships. The best you can get there is 15 resist.
Yeah.
So
this would also stack with that.
Okay, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So if you need some Sonic resistance, I guess this is really kind of the way to get it. I mean, unless you want to actually buy a Sonic augment and supplement your draconic soul augment. So, yeah.
Well, so the place that these are going to be more useful, I think, is lower levels in heroics.
Sure.
because and keep in mind that the ship buffs, the new style, you may still have the old style, but the new style actually scale with level. So when
Yeah, but
you're
the best you can
like
get is
level
15,
3,
though.
you only get 5.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
so
So 20 would be a hell of a lot better than,
mhm,
or well, 25 would be a lot better than just 5. So that's for sure.
mhm. I actually specifically got the acid one when they had acid ones for free. I specifically got those for Waterworks where you have to run through that acid tunnel. Like I
Right.
specifically
Oh,
got them for
good
that.
point.
Um, and somewhere along the way they changed how much damage that does, and it doesn't do a whole lot of it barely does any damage now. So go
So
figure.
that 5 resist probably would have been just fine.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Trust me, it is. That tunnel's
Man,
not
that used
nearly
to
as
be a
scary as it used to
killer.
be.
That used to be a killer way
Hmm.
back when.
I think they actually they may have toned. The other one is electric for Lost Home, recovering the Lost Home when you're running through
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
space. One, I've gotten a lot better of understanding how that works and not getting hit by it. Two, after actually your wife was playing with us on hardcore for a night, and she died in that trap, and I sent a message to Flimsy, because he had put this is when he did the post about, hey, what's out of balance in low levels, let's have a discussion
Hmm.
about that, and that I actually pointed that out to him and like that. So I think they actually have toned that down. I feel like they have, but I don't. There wasn't ever
All
a release
right.
note about it.
All
Um,
right. My wife is responsible for a game change.
indirectly.
Indirectly, yeah. Yeah.
um, but so that's a place, and that one still kind of stings a little bit. So electric resist can still be kind of helpful there. But
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about community news. The 401st Chronicle. The community spotlight this week is Seventh Halloween Party by the High Lords of Malkir. That's our friend Voodoo Spice doing that.
Voodoo.
So that's tonight. It's trivia, costume party, all that kind of fun stuff. You can check that out on the forums if you're listening to this live. If you're listening to this recorded, you're probably out of luck. It's probably not going to get published until tomorrow. Um,
Oh well.
eh. I mean, I will probably post the. Hey, it's a little inside baseball. A lot of times, I actually post the video on YouTube. Uh, so when we get done, I'll probably just kind of upload it. I usually upload it to YouTube pretty quick. But
Yeah,
then
I noticed that.
I come back like the next day to kind of do what I call the publishing part, which is I get the timestamps and that kind of stuff. There's a couple reasons why I do that. One, it takes, depending on how long the show is, it can take an hour to 2 hours for the video to get uploaded and processed.
Sure.
The other thing is I'm secretly hoping that if there's like this big snafu with the video, someone's gonna leave a comment and say, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
And you had time to fix it.
I had
Yeah,
to fix it before I publish
before
it.
you release it to the
Yeah.
forums. Yeah. No.
So
Yeah. No. I often see it very shortly after you
yeah.
on YouTube after you actually do the interview or the show.
For one of the people who listens to this on YouTube, before I quote publish it, uh, thank you for being the quality assurance of DDOcast. Unless you're missing things, in which case, come on, guys, let's do a better job. We're a team here. Back to the Chronicle. The comment: what is the most important thing you plan to take with you into the Feywild?
So as soon as I saw that, I had this little, I had this image in my mind of, if you remember the scene in Empire Strikes Back, where Luke and Luke is on Dagobah with Yoda, and they're traveling through Dagobah, and they come across a cave, right? It's a dark cave, and Luke says, hey, what's in there? Guess he sensed the dark side in there. And he says, hey, what's in there? And Yoda says, only what you take with you. And of course, Luke grabs his his belt with his lightsaber and his blaster, and he starts to head in. And he says, and Yoda says, your weapons, you will not need them. So that whole that scene there gave me the idea. Well, what am I going to take to the Feywild? Well, only what I need. So I wrote down on the forum, said only that which I truly need. So I'm not going to take my blaster, and I'm not going to take my lightsaber, and all that other DDO stuff. So I'll just go there and run around naked for a while.
One, I want a lightsaber in DDO. That would be awesome. Like an actual
Oh,
lightsaber, not the Celestia.
Celestius.
I mean, like an
Oh, come
actual
on.
lightsaber. I want to see limbs get chopped off, and that would be really cool. And two, I am definitely taking my weapons. Like that's, I mean, defensive things is probably important, but I'm definitely taking a weapon or a
Well, I'll
caster
bring my
stick.
my razor claw shifter, wears hand wraps, so
Yeah,
that won't. I guess that's technically a weapon, but it's hand wraps.
it's a weapon. Fan site news. We got a shout out for our preview of Feywild. We talked about the previews last week. Dido Players News has the latest news and more in episode 274. Teacher Sin takes Ninja Spy to its limit in a new blog post. So that's the Order of Syncletica.
Syncletica. Yep.
Uh, he's really focused on monks. So if you're
Yeah, no
wondering
kidding.
how to build a monk, or if you're kind of new to the class, that's a good place to start.
Absolutely.
And
That
look,
guy knows more about monks than I ever did. So no, he's
probably knows
really
more
good.
about monks than we've forgotten or forgotten. Sorry, let me rephrase it.
He's forgotten more than
Forgotten.
we ever knew.
There we
Yeah.
go. That's how that phrase goes. Um, Mickey shows off the new pre-purchase items with Fables of the Feywild, so you can read Mickey's delirium to check that out. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Brock and friends meet Simon's Curse, Sig Trent appreciates Stone, and Brighter Days Ahead tonight gets spooky. Also on Twitch, Dark Crusader quests on Orion, Noel Day gets closer to racial completionist, and Belnavar runs Night Revels. And on YouTube, Samus Garobo shifts away, he's running a shifter.
Shifter.
Lynn Vander runs Tower of Frost, and DEC Gaming heads to the hills. Tower of Frost is a quest I think doesn't get enough love.
No, it doesn't. Nobody. I was just thinking to myself, wow, they're finally getting around to Tower of Frost, huh? Yeah, that's a quest nobody runs. They just don't.
I've done it. I had to relearn it to do hard because we did it in hardcore season 1.
Uh,
So I've and then I've done it every hardcore season since then. So like I remember it a lot better now. And, the one time I ran it when it came out, and then this is kind of fun. Haven't been back.
yeah,
Didn't go
never
back.
again. Yeah, yeah.
Look, the loot in there isn't really competitive. There's some fun cosmetic stuff, but
No.
dude, hey, I'd love to get the snowball just to have that as a cosmetic. But anyways, this is your final weekend to run the Night Revels through November 3rd. So that's Tuesday. So Fables of Feywild arrives soon. Their intention is to bring the worlds down for the Fables of the Feywild update on November 4th, which is when
Wednesday.
Night Revels would be turned off. I feel like they're in good shape with that. There's nothing that really strikes me with Fables of the Feywild that's gonna cause a block. If it is, I would expect it's gonna happen in the augment side of things. But that system didn't seem to blow anything up on Lamania, so fingers crossed it's not gonna blow anything up on live. And it should be. I mean, if that's got a green light, I feel like we're probably gonna get Feywild next week. Maybe the week after, but I don't expect it to be delayed too long. In any case, I would expect the worlds to come down Wednesday, either for a maintenance or for a not a maintenance, a reboot, or for Fables of the Feywild. In
Right.
which case, Night Revels will get turned off. And of course, Cordovan did his weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream, which started late because the servers weren't back up yet.
Don't get me started.
Um,
Don't get me started.
D&D night on DDO stream. Check us out Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/DDO stream for tabletop night. A lot of fun. This week is Rhyme of the Frost Maiden, so you'll get to see me play. The week after that is we're going to start a new series, DM'd by myself, the Oracle of War Adventures League series. So that should be a lot of fun. I finished reading through the last module that I have for that. I gotta say, I'm really excited about this. This adventure is, I think, is gonna be a lot of fun.
This is all still 5th edition, right?
Yep.
Yeah. See,
You're not on board with 5th edition.
no, I was not on board with 4th, and I'm not aboard on 5th.
I'm with you on
5th.
4th. 4th had like 2 things that I really liked, and everything else was, eh. Actually 3 things. I'll give it 3 things that I liked: skill consolidation, plus W mechanics, and all the abilities that let you move around the board. I like the mobility in combat stuff. DDOCast news, DDOCast Splat on Wednesdays. We did Age of Rage this week, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got all of it done.
Yeah, we did.
I was pretty impressed. We got all through all 5 quests.
On R4, yeah, we were cruising through stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about clothes and other stuff.
Oh God.
You can check that out
How's my
Wednesdays at 5:30. Did you see what I named that episode?
I did, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Dressing for Success.
Dressing for Success. That's what it was. Yes.
There you go. I think that takes us through all of the community news and stuff. All right, so we're gonna review Update 47. And the first thing I'll say about Update 47 is it didn't seem to have, like, was there a title for this? If there
I
was,
didn't see one.
I missed it if there was. I think it's just Update
You know what?
47.
Let me go look at what do you call it?
The release
the
notes?
wiki.
Oh, the wiki would be a place
The
to look.
Promise of Fire.
They actually named it that?
I think it was called the Promise of Fire. After a mid to fair
Okay.
dungeon.
It wasn't in the actual release notes itself.
Okay.
Which usually it is, right? It just says here's the release notes for Update 47.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway.
All right, so we'll break some of this stuff down. Do you have a place you want to start?
No, you've got some bullet points here. Let's just go straight down the list here.
Legendary raids. So we got legendary Vision of Destruction, Lord of Blades, and Master Artificer. And I mean, I feel like I should say just right off the bat, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you probably know that Lord of Blades and Master Artificer are still to this day 2 of my favorite raids in DDO. I have long thought that Lord of Blades is the best raid boss. I think he's the most dynamic and has kind of the most interesting abilities. Like,
Yeah,
he's got more than
multiple modes of attack.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
And for a single raid boss without trash around, I think he demands more of everyone, not the tank, more than any other boss.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And Master Artificer, I have long kind of considered the most complete raid, by which I mean the sum of the whole is just really solid. It's got a really great puzzle mechanic. It's got good and interesting bosses. None of these things are like the best of a raid, but it brings all of those things together in a way that other raids don't tend to do for me.
Okay.
Now, some of the newer raids have kind of pushed that a little bit.
See, I think PN outshines Master Artificer by a lot.
That's the one that I think is most trying to unseat these 2 raids for me.
Okay.
And I think the reason why it doesn't is there's some things that are a little glitchy about it. Specifically, the laser firing.
What are you talking about? I'm a great laser firer.
It's not you. It's It's like when
I
you
know what
fire
you're
the
I know what
laser,
you're
and it's
going
like,
at.
oh, it's right on him, and it doesn't connect.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No target
And
found.
the
Right.
window of opportunity for that laser to hit, and also the window of success for the Minotaur's jump,
Yeah.
like those two
Yeah.
things are like just bring it just below MA for me, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, Project Nemesis is a fantastic raid. Uh, Anyways, but these raids going to legendary, how do you think? What do you think about them in legendary?
So, VOD, Vision of Destruction, they was well done. They added a couple of twists, like for example, the cursing thing. They
Everybody
didn't.
gets cursed.
Yeah, everybody.
Mhm.
Right. Everybody gets cursed, not just the whoever the bearded devils are attacking, or whoever.
Mhm.
It's everybody gets cursed, and I'm glad that it's not the curse like the PN curse. I appreciate that.
I was actually a little
And
surprised by that, if I'm honest.
that circle, and the circle with the
Right.
massive lightning damage.
Hmm.
That those are a couple of new twists. And so I mean, I always liked VOD to begin with, because ever since it came out, because it was so in such a small area. It didn't require a lot of running all over the place. You didn't, the mechanic of it was pretty simple. I always liked VOD, and the loot. I like the loot too. So I think this legendary version of VOD I like a lot. One of the things I'm still, however, disappointed in was the long sword that was in the original Divine Vengeance. I was disappointed that they didn't make a legendary version of it. Now
Right.
now I get that it would have been fairly duplicative of the bastard sword and the great sword from Strahd, but the one in VOD was supposed to be a long sword, and it would be nice if we could have an equivalent sword that was in long sword form. And so I was disappointed that Linnabelle took that out.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to have seen the legendary version of that and maybe make it a little less good than the two that you mentioned, just from the
Mm.
standpoint that those are exotic weapons. Well, the best sword is an exotic weapon. The great sword, I guess, isn't. But um, I don't know. I totally get what you're saying there. The loot for Vision of Destruction definitely seems to like have the lion's share of this update of the good ones.
Yes.
Um, the stuff out of Master Artificer and and Lord of Blades. Uh, it's not to say that I don't think it doesn't have its place. It just doesn't seem to be competing with other things. Now, having said that, I believe one or two of our guildies have actually been switching to. I think this one of the sets is out of the Lord of Blades Master Artificer, but it might be the Vision Destruction one. But um, so I think the loot is pretty solid in terms of it competes. Um, it's additive depending on what you're already using. Um, I don't I don't know how well it's gonna be longevity wise and pulling people in, but I think it's gonna be okay. Um,
The
it's
loot, the loot from okay, so the loot from VOD is of course very good. You got a couple of very nice sets in there,
the
some
tail,
good trinkets, the
the
tail, yeah,
trinkets, yeah.
yeah. So and some decent rings. So
Mhm.
that stuff is good. There's also some decent loot in the Lord of Blades, legendary Lord of Blades. I mean, there you got the spear, which I guess when they fix the favorite soul thing will be better. But um,
If that's broke, I don't know. We don't know if that's actually an issue, but
right, exactly. But I'm thinking of some interesting builds, that quarterstaff builds, paladin
Mhm.
quarterstaff builds. So that could be decent. And there's some other okay things in Lord of Blades too. The thing that bothers me about Master Artificer, PJ, is the alchemical stuff. And when Linnabelle switched it so that all this stuff was going to be that this alchemical crafting stuff was all going to be for offhand, offhands. That's what just totally turned me off to it. I mean, I couldn't care less about getting an alchemical blank in in Master Artificer. I just couldn't care less.
Sure. Uh, I will say, like, out of the House Cannith raids, the elemental rings I think are kind of interesting. Um, the place that I find myself just kind of in general with the stuff out of the House Cannith raids is like, oh, I wonder if that set fits in this on this character, right? If
Hmm.
that's a better puts me in a better place, but it's not like really clear cut.
Right.
That makes sense. Especially like my bard. I was looking at my bard, and he kind of tends, which is who I play on DDOCast Splat. He tends to bounce back and forth between the Flames Cleansed set, which is kind of more of a healing spell DC set, and the family set, which is kind of more of a DPS set. Now that's
Yep.
very bardish of him, right? Like he's a little bit swashbuckler, but he's kind of leans more into the healing crowd control. But depending on the scenario, he also tries to do DPS. He's not great at it, but he kind of plays back and forth between those. But like those two, the sets that are available between these three raids, kind of started making me think like, maybe I can grab one of those sets from this new stuff, and then that will kind of cement me more into one of the other sets that I have for Sharn. So that might be interesting. Although with Feywild coming out, that might
Oh, that all goes out
that's
the
I
window
know, right?
there. Yeah, jeez.
The gear chatrus is getting augmented in a good way. I think it's at least I think it's in a good way. Like there's the gear choices makes the game more interesting, and to me than if the high DP if you want to be a high DPS character and you have to be wearing the family set to get there, that's less interesting to me. It's simpler. Don't get me wrong. It makes the gear Tetris a lot easier when you
Yeah,
already
I
know
don't have
what
to
5
think
of
so
your pieces
hard.
are.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I hear you on the alchemical stuff. Um, I like that there's an idea there of a crafting system for offhand items. Am I excited about that? I don't think so.
No.
Not really. Look, I like the concept. I think that's actually a really smart pull. It's like, oh, hey, let's have a crafting system for that really specializes in offhand stuff. Cool. Not great for me. I don't tend to be huge on offhand stuff if you look at kind of my main characters.
Sure.
Um,
Not
maybe
a big orc guy.
my bard with a buckler, maybe I could get some bang for my buck out of, but there's some nice bucklers too.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, sure.
so I like the concept. I don't mind the execution, but it definitely falls flat.
Yes.
In fairness, for me, the previous iteration of here's alchemical weapons already built also fell kind of flat for me.
Yep.
So, I
They,
think this is better, but
if they
I'm
just
also less likely to use it.
if they had married the concept of customizability of the offhand to the idea of main hand weapons to main hand weapons, I think they had a real winner. I think they
Sure.
had a real winner.
So make it focused on offhand weapons, but also put in like bows and two-handed weapons. That's kind of what you're saying.
Well, I mean, having the alchemical warhammer that you could make either fiery or acidy or electricy or coldy. I mean, to have it, like the ultimate cold warhammer, for
Is there not a
example.
Warhammer blank?
There is, but
Okay.
remember, it's for offhand. So
Well,
I
sure.
guess you could do two weapon fighting, I guess, but
My
and-
issue with it was that like I liked the concept. I just wish they wouldn't have taken out the two-handed weapons.
okay,
Like
that
why
might
did
be
we take out the two-handed weapons? Like that
that might be a better a better
You
a
said this
better
is for offhand
criticism.
weapons, and sure, but why can't it also be for main hand weapons if you want it to be?
Well,
That
they
was
don't
kind
want
of the
sentience for some stupid reason.
yeah. But maybe someone wants to have an
Well, yeah, I
alchemical
would.
bow
Sure, I would like to have an alchemical,
hand wraps or something.
rapier, that I, would have a bard with a buckler with, to say go up and fighting with the ultimate fiery rapier. That might be kind of cool.
Sure. Back to the raids. We kind of went tangent off on the loot.
We
Which
never
is fine.
do that. We never go off on tangents. All right,
uh,
let's get back on the
new DDOCast drinking game. Whenever we come back from being on a tangent, you take a drink.
oh
Uh,
god.
the legendary raids. We, you talked a little bit. I like the changes to VOD. Like you take like the
Yes.
curse. Um,
Yep.
I think maybe it would have been a little interesting to, and this is kind of nitpicky. You talked about it's not the curse from PN,
Right.
and I agree. I'm glad it's not that. Um, but I think a little bit of ongoing damage, more along the lines of like what Korkaza does in killing time. Just
Mm,
a little bit
okay.
of damage just to kind of ping you a little bit.
Sure.
Um,
Make that a
and
little more urgent to get rid of it. Yeah.
yeah, and part of the reason why I say that is because uh, I think it kind of gives a reason for the people like, oh, I'm almost out of curse pots. I'm just gonna hold this curse for a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
And I've seen that. Yeah.
I think I'd like to now. On the flip side, could we maybe turn down the frequency just a little?
Yeah, it does seem to come up an awful lot. I think the frequency in PN is about right. Yeah,
I think that's a
they could do it.
little too frequent as well. To
You
be
think
honest,
so?
yeah.
I think it's all right.
Look, it's a little bit of an annoyance to have to go in there, like make sure you're always going in with like 200 curse bots. Like I don't have an issue from the same, or if we're going to do this, at least can we have a curse pot vendor that's like right there? Because if you're
Well, you can
looking
buy
like,
them from the store, the DDO
I'm
store.
not buying curse pots from the DDO store. Waste
Well,
of
now you
points.
know why that they're so frequent.
Um, but like the frequency is a little high, I think, in both of those, for
Okay.
my taste. I like the mechanic. Although I'd say if you want to be nitpicky, I'd say Project Nemesis should give you 10 seconds instead of like that way. If
5 or 6.
let me
Yeah.
rephrase it, if it's gonna do that much damage for PN, I would much rather it be, oh, my curse pot went on timer. It didn't give it to me. Give me another
Right.
chance to drink a curse pot before I'm dead.
Right.
That's what I'd
Right.
like out of that.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's fair.
that issue is not as prevalent in Vision Destruction because it's not doing any damage to you. It just prevents healing,
Right.
which arguably could be more of a problem depending on what's going on.
Especially when you're all grouping up on
Yeah,
trying to beat on a single orthon or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
But yeah, I like. It was a solid raid to begin with, and I think the minor changes they made seem fine.
Hmm.
I think there's an opportunity to do some more interesting things. They just weren't interested in doing it, and that's okay. Um, Lord of Blades and Master Artificer both have very little new stuff.
Yeah. Very pretty much the exact same
Um,
mechanics as it was before.
the
Yeah.
only thing I think that's really it's not really even new in Lord of Blades, but the water hurts a heck of a lot more than it does in
That's true.
um,
And
Don't
the
Go in the Water.
knives that fly out of his back seems to me that happened more often in the heroic version.
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Um, I think we're able to get from a difficulty level standpoint relative to where the difficulty was on Epic or on Hard back in the day when it came out. Legendary Hard is easier. I think we get through that phase a lot faster, so you just don't
Mm,
get through. You're not gonna get as many blade iterations.
right. Okay.
I am glad that it does some damage.
It does do real damage this time. You're
Yeah,
right.
And that was true back in the day for heroic. Like it hurt enough that most people needed to get to the center.
Right.
That was not true in killing time. That damage is laughable. Even on
Right.
Reaper, it's
Right.
just
Right.
complete laughable.
Just ignore it. Yeah.
I will say something I kind of noticed about the balancing in Lord of Blades. The dogs actually feel better balanced. And what I mean by that is
They're
when
goo.
no, uh, when Lord of Blades came out originally in Epic and Heroic, the common strategy was to just kite the dogs because
Right.
they respawn, they get rebuilt and pop back up.
Ah.
And
Right.
they were pretty beefy for us back then.
Right. It's
Now
much harder
they're
to take them down.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not hard to take them down, which really incentivizes you to just kill them as opposed to kite them around.
Yep.
Now, having said that, I also think that they're maybe a little too light.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
Actually, what I think would work better is if the dogs could buff each other. They don't
Huh.
buff themselves, and thus they can't buff each other. Um, like if you gave me the keys, what I would have done in Lord of Blades to kind of make it the legendary a little different is I would have made the two dogs different, slightly different. So one gives an
Ooh.
offensive
Okay.
buff and one gives a defensive buff, and then they can also buff each
Mhm.
other. They're immune to their buff, but not the other one. Which I think could make it, gives you a little bit more of an incentive to kind of keep the dogs apart from each other, not just from Lord of Blades.
Oh. Okay.
I think
Right.
that it just makes
Right.
it a little bit more interesting, right? Again, they weren't interested in doing something really changing the formula, probably because they're mostly working in Feywild
Right.
and stuff, and that's okay. It's still a great raid, but that's like if I got
Sure.
to kind of go in and like just do a little bit of tweaking, that's where I would tweak it a little bit.
I like the idea of having them if you break them up because if they're in proximity to each other, they get stronger in some
Yeah,
way.
or you
No,
could ignore it,
that's a good
whatever.
idea. That's a
Um,
good idea.
that's kind of the one little kind of, but I don't hold that against this raid because like that's just kind of me spitballing and making it a little tweaky different. The execution of what they did in Lord of Blades, I think, is really solid. Um, with the possible exception of the kind of Corey stuff at the end.
Ugh.
Um,
Yeah.
we've tried kind of killing that stuff, and it seems to just be never ending spawning,
Yeah.
and I don't like that.
No,
The old
it's
version,
definitely.
there was a finite number,
Yep.
and because of what's going on, the reason why I don't like it being kind of an infinite number is it gives you no incentive to kill them. Right? You
Right.
basically remove that as a strategy. Killing them is not an option because they just come back really fast. And when you're trying to
Right.
kind of push the difficulty a little bit, or maybe what your group can do, not having the we're gonna kill them and focus on them is an option. They also have a lot of hit points to begin with, so
Yeah.
they're harder to kill than the dogs, which I don't think is quite right.
No.
Um, so that's kind of the place that the legendary version of this raid kind of falls apart for me a little bit. Um,
It
I
definitely forces you to kill those pillars. At a very quickly.
it just boxes you in a corner, right? Like your only option is to really kite these, especially the beefy ones around, right?
Mm.
Like it's just not worth.
Those dream ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not worth killing them because they're hard to kill and they come right back. Like you get them down and they're down for maybe 10 seconds. If you change it so that if you could kill them all, if they were never ending, if you could kill them all, uh, they only spawn like every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Then
If they hadn't nerfed everything is nothing,
it
that would
wouldn't
be
help. Most
great.
of them are red name anyways.
Oh, that's right. Damn it.
But like the frequency, if they're gonna be in infinite, the frequency is too high.
Yeah.
If you let us kill them and they stop coming, the frequency is probably fine. But that's where I think the weakest part of the raid in the legendary design is. Having said that, it's still a lot of fun. Um, I do like that you can't jump in the water as a safe mechanism from the whirlwind,
Hmm.
because it makes whirlwind a lot harder to deal with. So what are your thoughts on Lord of Blades?
So I liked. I actually I enjoy running Lord of Blades still, and and I'm still hopeful that I'll get a Spear of the Mournlands at some point. I haven't gotten one yet, so I'm a little bit put off by that. But if worse comes to worst, I'll have to buy it with runes. But I'd like to get one that's got a mythic bonus. But whatever, it's not a huge deal. But I but yeah, I do like the Lord of Blades. I did like I do like the fact that the Rain of Daggers, does actual real damage to you.
His mechanics
The
are fun, right? Like,
Yeah, the Superman thing where he
yeah,
jumps up in the air and either lands on your head or lands at one of the cardinal points in the compass. You don't know what he's gonna do. Oh,
I
by
think
the
it
way, have
alternates.
you were able to discern a pattern to that?
I think it just alternates, but
Alternates? Okay. All right.
needs more data. But I think
Mm,
it just alternates.
got it. And I'm hesitating on whether to mention this, but I'm gonna guess they probably already know. But I do appreciate the fact that there are two chests um,
I have
at
heard
the
that that
end.
is intentional.
That is intentional or not intentional.
Intentional. It is
Okay, well,
intended to do
good.
that way.
Well, good. And
What you're referring to, for people who don't know, is if you do the optional in Lord of Blades and Master Artificer, you get a second chest, and that second chest is a raid chest in all respects. So it drops threads, it drops raid runes, all that stuff,
loot or
and loot.
items, named items. Yeah.
I'm a little
So
surprised that they didn't at least turn down the number of threads you get. Um, but I'm not complaining.
no,
I love it.
no, because I got tons of stuff I need threads for. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate running those, both Master Artificer and Lord of Blades,
The
mostly
Lord
for
of
that
Blades
reason,
one
honestly.
definitely feels worth it, right? Or like you earned that.
Yeah,
Those
yeah, for
threads,
sure.
those extra threads and runes. Master
Yeah, yeah.
Artificer, not as much.
That optional is
Mm,
really, really easy.
it
No, I
is.
agree.
It's a
Yeah. So,
little too easy, but yes.
well, they can make that a little tougher. I
We'll
mean,
talk about
they
that.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, and I don't really know much if there's much more to say about Master Artificer, the next raid. So I mean, I liked Lord of Blades.
Do you miss
It's
the
fine.
elemental
I
rooms at
still like
all
no,
in Lord of Blades?
no, not at all.
I
The
agree.
elemental rooms were dumb, and I mean, they made more sense in the context of
Hmm.
the old crafting system, the alchemical crafting system in the heroic version. But I do not miss them at all now.
I agree. Especially because that they kind of use that mechanic in Project Nemesis too. So
Yes,
it not being here
yes,
is not a myth. It's not a loss. I don't think.
right,
I heard
right.
a couple people say that, so I was kind of curious. Um, Master Artificer, uh, like it. I still like the raid a lot. Um, I am thankful that Tovin is not as beefy as I was afraid he was going to be.
Hmm.
I was expecting it to be more the norm that we might have to kill the Titans twice. I
Oh
suspect
God.
that's going to be true of when people start really pushing the raid. Um, but
What do you
possibly
mean?
not.
Like at high skulls, you'll have to kill it twice, or kill them twice, or?
Well, in higher skulls, if you can't do enough damage, he would bring the Titans back, and you have to do them again.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Um, I thought he would be harder to get down. I think on hard he's maybe a little touch light, but that's kind of a general. We'll talk about difficulty in a minute. The one thing about MA, well, I'll say kind of two kind of negative things about MA. One is they changed the first two waves of trash so they both have some golems, and that's
Right.
just it kind of invalidates the DM text for me a little bit because it says, okay, second wave, I'm going to unleash the golems. Like, well, you've already been sending the golems, so
They've already been unleashed.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of, I'm glad there's not as many golems as there are on heroic because the golems are pretty beefy, and there's like gobs of like there's like
Mm.
40 golems or something stupid like that. I do kind of wish that they would have taken the golems from phase one and just put all of those golems into phase two and just kind of made it that way. But it's a minor thing. The thing that I don't like about the legendary version is I don't think the electric floor trap hits hard enough.
No, it definitely does not, and there's real no urgency to actually, get that, follow that, figure out the
Hmm.
puzzle. Honestly.
Yeah. Now on Reaper on higher skulls, that definitely becomes more of a thing. Um, and my guild ran it, like pushed the difficulty on that, and the next morning there was there was kind of a thread in our Discord like, hey, Patrick, come teach us how to do this because it hurts. We care now.
Right, right.
And boy, did I love that thread. But anyways, I don't think on hard it does, like normal hard, it doesn't do enough damage because it's not hard for people just to ignore it. And that was true when it came out in heroics as well. When it was in epic, people started to care, but below that, people just didn't care. And I really wish it did more damage. That also kind of dovetails into the optional, right? Because you can,
Right.
um, I think one, I would like it if maybe the damage on that was upped a little bit. Two, I think there's a really great opportunity there for a debuff, an electric debuff.
Hmm.
So if you get hit with it, you get more vulnerable to electric damage, or you lose reflex save, or something, or both, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because that further penalizes you every time you miss, right? You're not paying attention and you miss, you get penalized. So the next one's gonna hurt harder. Um, so that's the number one thing I would change if I got to go under the hood a little bit.
Okay.
But otherwise, I like the oh, by the way, one thing that did change, Purple Titan's Big Shot now tracks. It's homing.
Oh,
I used to range tank him back in the
yeah.
day because we didn't have enough tanks,
Right.
and I got really good actually at just like shooting him
At
from afar
dodging.
and dodging it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. It tracks you. And as soon as I saw it do that, I was like, "Ah, crap, this isn't gonna work." Although you have experience range tanking green, so it's still possible to kind of range kite one of them.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Yeah, but that's right. I do that. I did that with my thrower the other day.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, but still, I mean, he can still do some damage even if
Oh,
even if you're range tanking him. So
their
don't.
spinny blade attack hits you like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to
Yeah.
be a hint, a tricky part for pushing that raid.
Right. Yeah. Don't take the green one lightly if you're ranging it.
So I'd say like anything else you want to say about MA?
No, not really.
I would say kind of across the board for me, it was really good legendary versions of these raids. I'm
Hmm.
really happy they have legendary versions. I'm happy that they're back in. I think a lot of people have really been enjoying them. The House Cannith ones aren't being run nearly as much as VOD. And I think a large part of that is because one, VOD is a lot shorter, and two, VOD has the loot that people actually want,
The
much
best
more
loot,
so.
yeah,
Yeah,
by far. Yeah.
I think it's not. I don't think it's a stretch to say that the top 4 items are all in VOD from
Hmm.
these raids. So I think that's a big part of why people are running that more. Um,
Right.
I also think VOD is a little easier than the other two for some of those
Really?
reasons. I think so.
Okay.
Look, it's shorter and it has less stuff going on. That raid
Right.
boss does not
That's
have a
true.
lot of tricks. It doesn't have the tricks Lord of Blade does, right? Lord of Blades has some really deadly tricks if you
Hmm.
get caught on them unawares. And Master Artificer has a lot of different phases that you have to get through, right? So it's a little bit, and Master Artificer, you need two quote tanks, right? You need to deal with 2 Titans at the same time.
Two Titans. Sure. Sure.
VOD has a simpler raid boss, and there's only one of them. The Orthons hurt, sure, but um, they're not a raid
As
boss.
long as you get coordinated and everybody
Yeah.
beats up on the same one, then it's fine.
Or you don't. I
Yeah.
mean, some groups on hard are just killing Sulu before they even have to deal with the
Have to deal with the
Orthons.
Orthons. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I would say overarchingly, I am happy that the difficulty is not prohibitive. I think the raids could stand to be 5%, 5-10% harder on hard. Not a lot, but I think they're maybe just a little too easy. I don't think that's a bad thing though. Like I'd rather it be 5% too easy than 30% too hard. So I
Like too hot to handle.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I think they're all really good. Like I said, there's a few things that I would personally change. The electric floor in MA is the one that's number one for me. Like people are ignoring the puzzle, and I think that's a bummer.
Mm.
But all right, we talked a lot about those raids. The Promise of Fire, the other new quest. We both ran it for DDOCast Splat a couple weeks ago.
Mhm. Yep.
What'd you think?
It was fine for just a just a single a one shot kind of quest. The one thing that I really appreciate about Promise of Fire is the loot. I mean, there's a couple of the new artifacts are in it. The Crown of Bone, for one, which every single uh, Pale Master should get. So Promise of Fire, the loot is decent. Well, the fact that it's got the artifacts in it, those are level 29 stuff, but the other stuff that's in it is all level 27 stuff. So I thought found it a bit surprising that the artifacts would drop from there. Um, but the quest itself is fine. Um, when my wife and I did it, we did it together for the first time, and we had a little trouble with the big Scoro, the big giant scorpion guy, and because we dragged it away from the direct opposite direction from which where it needed to go. So we were just running around away from the that other place,
I wanna
and so
park
we
on
were
him just for a hot second. Did you find that the quest gave you enough information about how to
no,
handle him? I agree.
no,
Yeah,
not at
I
all.
didn't think so either.
Not at all. That's why we're running around half the dungeon, kiting him and trying to you know figure out what the heck to do. And and honestly, just by accident, we wound up going back to that place,
Sure.
and that solved our issue. But it was totally up by accident.
Yeah, I like the quest was. I think you're right. It was fine. It wasn't it wasn't too long. It wasn't too hard. It just kind of was. Um,
Right.
the little puzzly spot with the squares and stuff was kind of interesting. I think that's kind of the most interesting part of the dungeon for me. Just kind of figuring out how it works. And I kind of need to go
Hmm.
back in there to kind of figure out really how it works. But I think I got a pretty good idea. But it was interesting. Uh, yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. Should we move on to Shifter and Razor Claw?
Sure.
Um, you want to start?
Uh, well, so I haven't really. So I've only messed with the Razor Claw, and the only reason why I even got the Razor Claw, the why I even got the Fate Arc expansion was for the Razor Claw, and my big curiosity was the combination of the Fang of ZZ and the Hand Wraps of the Hound, from
Vision
from the
Destruction.
VOD, and that bee thing, that bee theme set bonus, and I was like, wow, I want to see how this is. Could this DOT from the bees, could that be really do a boatload of damage? Could that be really cool? And so I got I spent $130 and got to the be all to end all version of the Feywild pre
The
whatever.
recommended version.
Yeah, the yes, that one. And got it, and I actually, I'm actually enjoying my Razor Claw. I mean, I had most of the loot for it already. The with all the set items and all the other equipment that I just all the bound to account stuff. I just moved it over and made my slave lords trinket, not trinket, but bracers, and and update. Got all the nearly finished stuff done, so forth. So I'm sitting at, so it's a pure barbarian, hand wrap user, and I'm sitting at 3,400 hit points, and it's 200 PRR, 150 MRR. It's pretty survivable, and the damage is nice, especially getting that tier 4 racial ability that gives you the +1 primal, uh, you know, uh, bonus to your crit multiplier. That's nice. So I'm seeing some fairly decent crit multipliers. The play style is definitely, it's a combination of a barbarian and a monk. So the play style is different. It's not as busy as the monk, but it's a little bit more busy than the barbarian play style. So I'm enjoying it right now. I don't know that I'm going to actually keep that razor claw shifter build or not. Like you, I have a boatload of level 30 tunes just sitting out there, and some of them I'm going to actually just keep forever, and some of them I recycle through, and if there's an interesting build that comes to mind. So for the example, my bard, I got rid of my bard and TR'd him, and made my razor claw shifter out of him. But Arkat, my monk, I'll never TR that into something else. So
Did you find that it compares decently with your monk?
um damage wise, it's about this. I'm going to say it's about the same. It's about the same. That extra crit multiplier does make up for some of the W's that you lose. I guess you wind up losing three W, three weapon whatever things, that you would normally get in Grandmaster of Flowers, if you're a monk, um, and you're centered and whatnot. You lose that, but what you gain in the racial tree kind of makes up for it to a
Okay,
certain extent.
that's good.
But I guess you can, if you wanted to stun, it the razor claw shifter really lends itself well to a strength build. So I mean, you could get your stunning back. To you're not gonna it's your stun's probably not going to be as good as it is with a monk. With a very high wisdom monk, but it'll. I think you can probably get it around 120 without too much difficulty,
So
which is
you're
a
kind of finding that the DPS is kind of a wash. The monk has a higher, better with the tactics. The razor claw is
yeah.
kind of more defense, has better defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, and that's what you would expect with the razor claw with defense wise, because now you don't have to wear clothing. You can wear medium armor,
You can
which
have
is.
more than 100 MR. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I'm finding that it's definitely so razor claw shifter. I guess in a way, the way you put it is a more survivable monk. I guess is one way to think about it.
sure. That's good. I think that's where it kind of wants to be, right? Um,
Right.
I'll say for shifter, uh, I did kind of enjoy going through the appearance choices. Um, it does feel a little Beauty and the Beast-ish in the
Beauty
look.
and the Beast. Yeah, I think of it as Lion-O from Thundercats.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. They're not they look a lot like big giant, ugly cats, lions and so forth.
I did have a lot of fun with the hair, some of the new hairstyles they have.
Ugh,
Um,
awful. Oh, you remember that movie Battlefield Earth?
yep,
It was the
it's not a
hair
good movie.
reminded me a lot of their hair.
Sure. Um, it had a lot of interesting things in the appearance that I kind of had fun playing with. Um, I guess the way to put it, like they look better than I thought they would. I'm not sure what I was expecting. Um, and maybe I just wasn't really expecting anything. But I kind of had fun kind of going through the appearance stuff. Uh, I kind of like the razor claw tree, although I'll say it's a little tricky to kind of find things you really like if you're not doing hand wraps, because I'm doing great
Right.
swords or
Mhm.
two-handed weapons. Um, but I kind of like the tree's got some interesting stuff in there, and It's here's the thing that's really weird for me about Shifter, specifically Razor Claw. The tree has some really nice things that synergize with Barbarian Raging, right?
Yep.
Because it's got stuff that increases the duration, gives you more, gives you regenerating rages. Although between being a pure Barbarian and Razor Claw, I didn't even take the regenerating thing, and I don't run out of rages because they last so long.
Right.
um,
Right.
and I have like 15 of them or so. It's
Yeah, you get so many. Right.
yeah, wow, do I have a lot of them? But the thing that I think that I'm like everything seems to work so synergizingly well with like I like what they did with the Razor Claw shifter and concept. The part that I'm kind of having an issue with is you can't because I don't think you can shift and rage at the same time.
No. No.
They're exclusive.
It's one or the other.
Yeah,
So I don't even have Barbarian Rage on my hotbar. I just have the shift.
but I'm only using the Barbarian one. I'm not using the shift one. Because the Barbarian one gives me Constitution, the Shift one gives me Dexterity, and I don't care about Dexterity. I want the Constitution.
Oh, no kidding. Really? I'm gonna have to look at that. I thought the shifter one was better for some reason, and you know what? I'll take a look at that.
I think their shift is +4 to rage bonus to Strength and Dexterity, +2 to fort saves, -2 penalty to Wisdom.
Oh, okay.
And the let me get to it. The Barbarian Rage is +4 to Strength, +4 to Constitution, +2 bonus to Will saves, -2 to Armor class.
Oh man, that is better. Holy cow! I can't believe I missed that.
It's because
Oh yeah, I'm
it's
gonna switch to
Dexterity
Barbarian Rage.
versus Strength, right?
Yeah.
And the shifter one you're using Wisdom, so of course if you're using Wisdom for something, which
Hmm.
if you're Barbarian you're probably not.
Right.
Um, but also if you're Barbarian, like bonus to Strength and Dexterity, like I kind of wish maybe that it was Dexterity and Constitution. That would make that choice more interesting, right?
Oh,
Because
that would make more sense. Then you
if
can be
you could be
a
Dexterity
dex
based,
based.
but that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense from
Mhm.
a Barbarian either.
That's
So.
true. True.
Um, so that's the one place that it kind of like falls a little flat, and I wasn't expecting that, and I don't know why. I probably should have. But otherwise, I really like the flavor, the everything behind it. Like it's a very I think typical iconic class in that it's like it's here's a race, and we're gonna give it this tie it to this class that maybe you wouldn't think right off the bat, right? Some of them that are kind of that way, but Warforged and Paladin is not something
Hmm.
that you really. But it's
No.
such a great it's a great flavor concept. Like I love that, and it makes sense. Like everything about it makes sense. Like when you
Right.
start thinking about, oh, it's a follower of the Lord of Blades. It's a Paladin. Oh, that makes perfect sense. A
Right.
shifter barbarian that uses hand wraps. That makes such great sense, except for the shift and
It's a
rage.
great concept. It's a great
Yeah,
concept for sure.
Tiefling Bard is, I think, maybe a little more on the nose, but at the same time, if you really, I think most people think Tiefling Warlock or Tiefling Sorcerer would kind of be the ones that they would jump
Tiefling
to,
Warlock would have been
the on the nose
the
one.
shiz. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would have been the awesome. Yeah,
but it's
for
also a
sure.
little too on the nose, right? Like Bard really kind of I think is fun. It has the flavor aspect to it. I don't know. Fade Arc Illusionist. Move on to that.
So so well, okay, well let's just briefly mention
The regular shifter.
the regular shifter.
Sure,
Only because I think we just totally skipped over it.
that's fair. I haven't done a
I
regular shifter yet, so
Neither have I. So I'm trying to drag out what the attraction there is with the regular shifter. What are people doing with them? Do you know?
So some of the stuff that because you get a little bit more choice with your rage, right? And you're not, in theory, tied to this. I mean, Razor Claw Shifter's not tied to Barbarian, but you get the Barbarian rage unless you get rid of it.
Mhm.
The there's kind of like a tank version and a castery version, right?
Okay.
For their raging. The Wild Hunt Shifter gives to +4 to Wisdom and Dexterity. So a +4 rage bonus to your casting stat if you're Wisdom base. So that's kind of interesting. Or if you're like a Wisdom based monk, this would work really great. Or Wisdom based whatever.
Yeah,
And
but you become uncentered though, right?
it might. I think
I think I
shifting
I think
is
shi I think shifting uncenters you.
that sounds right. Um, but if you're like a casting version, I haven't really seen any of them running around. I think most of the people I've seen running around as shifters are kind of doing more of a some sort of martial based.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just it hasn't been out long enough that the people that are just stoning through the life have already done that, and the people that are not stoning through them are maybe starting with the iconic.
Right.
I don't know. The
So
the other one is
go
really
ahead.
tanky based, right? Like it gives you a +4 rage bonus to armor class and constitution.
Okay.
Um,
That's nice.
so I haven't talked to Benton about it yet, or it hasn't come up in the conversations. He's kind of he's been on the show for the tanking, and will continue hopefully to be on for the tanking stuff. Um,
Mhm.
and one of his favorite kind of tank builds is less so these days, but um, he really likes the bear tank version, and I I kind of like to get his take on, is the shifter bear tank better than what he was doing? I think he was usually using like dwarf for some things, but
Yes, he was dwarf. Yeah.
um, and I think there's some interesting things in there for a bear tank that I think would really really shine, as it were, because you get more hate, you get more some PRR, some they still get the quality hit points that dwarf does, and so I think of all of the builds that I kind of like just generally think of, I think from the base shifter, a bear tank is where it's going to shine the best.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my hot take on that.
Gotcha. So actually, while you were saying that, the two other things came to my mind regarding shifters in general, and then one
Mm-hmm.
for the razor claw. So shifters in general, I think it would have been cool if the shifters actually shifted.
Their
Maybe became
appearance changed.
more bestial. A little bit more
Sure.
bestial. And maybe their fangs grew a little longer, or maybe they got a little more hairy or something. That was part of of a minor transformation, which is what shifters do. When they shifted, when they actually did
Right.
when you clicked on their shift. So a little minor that would have been a nice flavor thing to do. And then as far as razor claw shifter, so one thing that always bothered me when when say razor claw, I'm thinking slashing, with a razor, right? Razors do slashing damage. But we're not doing, we're for using. So you need to get the piercing damage if in you need to get the piercing bypass in the razor claw shifter tree, the racial tree. Um, and so it does. So it's almost like you don't have claws, unless you actually get the enhancement for it. So,
Well, claws are
you know,
usually a
our,
slashing, not a piercing.
what's that? Claws? Well,
Claws are usually
yeah.
slashing instead of piercing, but
But you can't do that. You have to if you the only way that you can get slashing damage with your if you're a razor claw shifter is you have to be a monk,
oh,
and then you have to get the vorpal strikes.
so you're
So
saying
that means that,
instead of piercing, it should be slashing?
well, why not make it all? Why not make it,
Okay.
piercing, slashing, and to go along with the bludgeoning? But but if you didn't want it, but if it couldn't be, it couldn't be both, then it probably should have been slashing instead of piercing.
What I would say is what I would prefer actually would be that they change the improved martial feat prerequisite to if you are a Razor Claw shifter, you can take it.
Sure.
Because
Well, not
that
improved,
helps
but
them both in
Vorpal
the
strikes.
+1 to damage
Yeah.
and the slashing and Vorpal strikes.
Yeah. 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 That
I
that
think that would
that would
be
probably be better.
interesting. So
That would be better. That way you'd end up having to spend a feat to get slashing, which would be fine. So yeah, that'd be all right.
and
Anyway,
I think it
that's
just
all I had
fits,
about
right? Like
shifters.
it gives you another feat option up there.
Sure.
I mean, if depending on what you're playing, the epic feat options are kind of bland. Like if you don't have a class specific one,
Right.
like okay, overwhelming critical and blinding speed
That,
and
yeah, but what do you
what
do at
else?
24? At 24
Epic
really is the
toughness
big one.
is the one I always end up taking is epic
That's
toughness.
right. That's right. Epic, so the epic toughness is always the default for, I'm not a caster, so I don't want any of those level
And
24
+1 to strength is
master
kind
of the
of
earth
blah.
thing ones. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, epic feats in general could just use a little more melee,
Sure.
martially kind of stuff.
All right, let's move away
Archers
from
have
shifters.
combat archery, which there's something
Oh, that's
there.
nice. Yeah, and then the extra, and of course, rogues get the extra sneak
Yep.
damage. So yeah, those are nice.
Monks have a couple of feats that they can take.
Mhm.
Bard has the Inspire Excellence. Martially folks outside of those kind of don't.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
All right.
Fate Arc Illusionist.
Okay.
The,
So Fate Arc Illusionist, I just started to look at this morning in preparation for
sure.
the show because I didn't really have any interest. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't even really going to get the expansion because you know I wasn't super psyched about the cosmetics. I wasn't super psyched about the illusionist because I don't really play casters
Mm-hmm.
that much. And the shifters, well, the shifter looked interesting, and I figured we could probably buy shifters later. But so I started to actually look at the Fate Arc Universal Tree, and then I saw your comment in the show notes about
Hey, don't steal my
the.
comment.
All right, well then you go first then.
So there's kind of three things out of the tree that I think stand out to me. One is if you have a universal tome and you're playing a caster, this is a clear winner of somewhere to put that 1 point. So it gives you some force spell power. The second thing is charisma to attack and damage. So if you're looking for that, there's some interesting stuff here for you, and I think that's good.
Yeah, you don't have to spend too many points to get it too.
Right.
Like 6 or something.
It's
6 or 7.
If I remember correctly, it takes less points to get that in this tree than Harper Agent does for intelligence or Falconry
For
does for wisdom.
intelligence. Yeah.
But you have to have a specific feat to get it, which can lock some, can. So I think the cost is actually is fine, right, in that regards. The thing that I really found interesting about this tree was kind of the interplay of abilities. And what I mean by that is there's a boost for crossing your Shadow Blade ring, your quote blade barrier.
Right.
There's enhancements that interplay with feats or spells. And I really like that, and I hope that they do more of that. Specifically, when you start thinking about, as something that's come up recently again, there's talk about kind of tweaking the sorcerer trees, the elemental trees again, right? There's, I think, some opportunity here for some other, casting interplay enhancements in the future. So I really love that concept and would like to see that continue forward. As a main tree, I'm kind of meh on it. I did see someone using I've seen people using the blade barrier stuff. I've even seen people use the capstone out of it to get the displays for everyone. I don't feel like the blade barrier is really poppy in terms of like, ooh, like it's doing a lot of damage. At least not any more than a blade barrier would normally.
Mhm.
And I haven't been in a situation where the displacement has been like, yeah, thank goodness for that. Not to say that I won't, but it's a lot of investment for something that is, I think, super situational, and I don't think it's. I think other capstones, it might be the weakest capstone in the game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's true. And there are definitely times where I'm sure at some point it's gonna be like, oh man, that everyone gets displacement saved us, saved that group, saved that raid or whatever. I just don't feel like it's gonna be very often.
No, no, because too many monsters have true seeing, so
That too. That's a fair
it's
point.
of little utility, honestly.
It's very specified utility, which is like an oxymoron just in and of
Yeah,
itself, right?
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, no, actually, I liked seeing all the Force stuff, in the Fate arc thing, and and the reason why that jumped out at me was because I'd always, once Strahd came out and that quarterstaff Nocturne came out, I always thought to myself, man, maybe this would be the perfect thing to have to make a force, force mage or force sork. Less so Sork because Sork's based on mostly in this game on elements. So there's just so many elemental trees for sorcerer. I guess Sork also gets Eldritch Knight, but the real thing, if you were for Sork, was the Magister, not Sork, but a force mage would be the Magister tree, so you'd be a wizard. Um, so I saw all this extra force goodness, and then it was your comment on the Ring of Shadow Blades where you would run through it and it would double your force damage for a short period of time. I thought to myself, wow, that could make a force mage, that does like a lot of magic missiles and whatnot, force missiles, chain missiles, that can make them do a whole heck of a lot more damage. So I'm starting to think, the wheels are starting to turn in my head about how can I do that? What would be the best way to do that? Should I go tier 5 in Magister and get the capstone in Feydark, or the other way around? You know,
Let me
um,
temper your excitement a little bit. Because when you run across the Ring of Shadowblade, your force damage doesn't double; it just doubles the bonus you get from that thing. So you just get another 10% or 10 force power, 10 universal spell power, and
really?
5% force. Yeah, it's just the
Oh
bonuses that double.
man.
It's not double your
So
force power.
the plus 10 force spell power becomes plus 20.
Correct.
Oh, that's awful. That's awful. Oh
It's an
man, and I
interesting
had
idea, but it like the bang for your buck in it is probably not super great.
no. Okay. Well, then the other thing that this is good for, then, so much for the force mage idea, is the illusionist. Because it really helps. I think there's a lot more help for illusionist DCs in the Fate Arc tree than there are in the Magister tree. So if you wanted to be a illusionist, you're all DC all the time
Yeah.
there, because really there's really no reason for illusionist spell power.
I think that
So yeah, so I guess if you wanted to, if I guess maybe you should get some extra damage from a damaging spell that might happen from what's that, the rainbow, whatever it is, that
color spray,
color
prismatic
spray.
spray,
Thank
or
you.
prismatic spray.
Prismatic spray. Yeah, I guess there's some damage in that where you might benefit from more illusion spell power, but maybe not. Maybe it
Illusion
wouldn't be worth
DCs, you
it
mean?
to do that. Yeah. Well, no, I mean you get the DCs. I mean, don't isn't like some of the, so isn't one of the things that could happen in color spray, or rather prismatic spray, that you get fire damage or something instead of
I think there's some
being
damage
pushed off
options
to
in
a
them. Yeah.
different plane. Yeah, so I'm thinking that the damage options would benefit from illusion spell power, or would it be evocation spell power? I don't know.
You're talking about DCs, I think.
Well, the
Well,
DCs
the
would be for
DC.
saving.
So
Would be
well,
for
there's no
saving
illusion spell
against that.
power. That's where I'm
Okay,
getting
well
confused. You
there
keep
you go.
saying
So
illusion
that
spell
shows how
power.
much little I know about illusionists. So
I mean, it's so spell power is derived from what kind of damage it is. The DC is based on what kind of school the spell is from. So,
Sure.
uh, color spray, I think, is illusionist. I am not positive what prismatic spray is off the top of my head. I have to look that up. Uh, I think like in the spirit of my like here's some ways to tweak it. But prismatic spray is evocation. Uh,
Yes.
in the spirit of my, I've got an idea that I think makes it a little better and more interesting. The run across the blade, the shadow barrier thing. It'd be really cool if maybe they gave you like your attacks got a debuff as part of it or something, or like some secondary thing that happened that wasn't related to the spell power or something. So maybe your attacks, your spells or attacks, reduced MRR and PRR or something like that. Could be kind of an interesting way of playing with that. I don't know.
Okay.
So I think it's an
Well.
interesting tree. I think it's about what I expect from the universal trees, to be honest. Right? Like, um, I don't think the Harper agent tree is super great. I feel like this is pretty on par with that. It's got some things that are interesting in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of specialized, but it's not. Vishtani and Inquisitor are both really good trees if you're
Yes.
doing that specifically. If you're not
Right.
doing that, they're terrible.
Right.
um,
Right.
this one is much more of it has much more of that Harper feel of it's very broad, but because it's very broad, it also doesn't have a lot of real oomph behind it at the
Okay.
same time. It's more utilitarian, useful, but and Falconry I think is kind of somewhere in the middle. I really like Falconry a lot, but that's also because I really like it. It works great on my monk. So,
Right. The wisdom, the
yeah,
wisdom stuff.
wisdom
Yeah.
to hit, wisdom
Absolutely.
to damage.
Yeah.
Another is more the bird trip and blind and fortification reduction. Like they're all things that work great on a monk. Outside of that, there's a bird death cleric running around these days that's pretty good too. But I think Feydark is fine. I don't think it's anything that's gonna blow your socks off.
Hmm.
Much in the same way that I don't think like Harper Agent. It's very similar to Harper Agent for me. Doesn't blow my socks off, but it has some things that I recognize that are kind of useful for certain types of builds. But useful in this will give me a little boost, but I'm not going to invest heavily into this tree.
What do you think of the familiar option?
Oh,
What sort of thing does that add? What angle
well,
or what unique style of gameplay does that add?
I think the familiar is just a cosmetic flavor thing. I don't think it really changes the gameplay of it in any mechanical kind of way, right?
Well, I mean, there are familiar things. There are things that help your familiar or that your film familiar allows you to do.
Yeah, but it's just like it
Within the
doesn't change the
tree.
mechanic. It just explains. It gives you a story explanation of a lore explanation of why it does that. Like there's other trees that block magic missiles that give you a shield effect to block magic missiles.
I
This
see.
one just
Okay.
explains it from being the familiar, which is a great explanation. Like that works. It's like it's fine. It's um I like the look of them.
It's just derivative then. Yeah.
Um
Yeah, yeah, the pseudo dragon. Everybody always wanted to have a pseudo dragon familiar, so I guess if that's your thing, you can do that.
I am not sure that if they're gonna do familiars, I think I would have liked them to do them in a more um open manner. I guess you could say. Although it only takes 1 point to get a familiar, so whatever. Um, but I would like there to be more ways to get a familiar. I guess I would say because I think people want a familiar and maybe don't want to do this tree, but
Right.
what I don't, it's not really a big thing for me. So
Okay. Yeah, I guess the familiar also gives you true seeing too. So yeah, like you said. It's just yeah,
It's an explanation for the mechanics behind it,
right, right.
which I think is
Okay,
important. It's just not. It's just a. But in a game like this, you spend most of the time not really worrying about why am I getting true seeing. I don't care. I have true seeing. Yay. Right? Like it's not. Um, I think the caveat I want to put on Fate Arc Illusionist is I I'm interested to see how it plays on a hardcore server because I think people might use it more there, specifically for things like permanent displacement is kind of nice to have potentially.
sure.
Depends on what you're doing, um,
Mhm.
but also the magic missile absorption, right? Doesn't matter what class you are, now you can get magic missile absorption.
That's always nice, especially those damn kobold
Yeah.
shamans.
Or you get a champion magic missiler
Hmm.
when you only have 100 hit points and it's scary. So scary enough
Right.
that uh, when I was doing a bear tank, I would go out of bear form, cast a shield scroll on myself, and go back into bear form, and it was a pain in the butt.
Right.
um,
But necessary. Oh, you can't use okay.
you can't use a
Can you
scroll in
use
bear form.
wands in bear form? You have
Nope.
to get it. You have to get out to use any of
Yep.
those things, don't you? Okay.
To the point that the following season, I took a level of favored soul specifically so I could cast Night Shield.
Right.
So get some stuff like
Gotcha.
that. But I think there's my expectation is Feydark may get more play on hardcore than it does anywhere else.
No kidding. Okay.
Hey, utility is the name of the game on hardcore. Whether that's bring friends or do more stuff yourself.
Okay. So 2 levels of rogue and so forth.
If you have magical training from your class, then a couple of points and you're immune to magic missiles. Although there's a lot of ways to get that, so I don't know. It may not play as well as I think it will, but we'll see.
Okay.
We usually talk about miscellaneous stuff. I don't think I went through the release notes, and I didn't really pull out a lot of great miscellaneous things to talk about, other than Yay, which was the daily dice horses are now bound to account.
Right.
Win. And the Sharn boarding pass casting time was reduced a lot. Again,
I didn't
fantastic.
notice that. I had, I saw. I mean, I saw the what do you call it, the release note, but I didn't actually try it to, and then
It's
say,
like
oh yeah,
half the
it's
time.
oh that's nice.
Oh, it's great. It's
That's nice.
fantastic. Way better. They also did some tweaking to color spray and greater color spray. We kind of touched on that a little bit. Um, Yay, I think. Like, I don't know. Really, what they did is they added a new a new spell to the game and renamed
Right.
the existing one greater color spray.
Hmm.
It was a new spell. Is really the nuts and bolts of that. Which more spells, great. I like more spells. Um, I am always a proponent of more options is better, even if those options aren't fantastic for everybody. Or maybe I don't even see like Fate Dark Illusionist. I don't really see the usefulness of it, but it's an option, and more options better. So, anything else you want to say about Update 47 before we give it an arbitrary letter grade?
Did we want to talk? Do we want to cover the extra other things that came through, like the cosmetic armors or the
We kind of did that
um
with the preview stuff, but if you want to comment
did you?
on them, you can.
No, no, no. I didn't realize if we that I because I didn't listen to that part of the show
I thought we did it
with
with the
with the
pre-order
preview.
stuff
Okay,
when we talked
all
about
right,
the pre-orders.
all right, fair enough. Then we
But
can
if you
just
have thoughts
move
about it,
on.
I mean,
I just wanted to say that you know, well, I the unicorn. I mean, my con- my critique of the unicorns are fairly nitpicky, honestly. I just, the beards, the unicorn beards kind of bothered me. I
oh,
mean,
I didn't
I
even
don't
notice
mind
those.
that they have beards, but
They
the
have
way that
beards.
they're shaped, well, yeah.
I didn't notice.
So okay, so if you go back in in mythology, unicorns really were not horses. They were some sort of combination of goat because they had cloven hooves. And so there was some sort of a combination of a goat and a horse, with of course with a single horn. So
With the
goats
mythical
have
part of it.
beards. That's where the beards came from for unicorns. But they would hang down straight. Unless there was actual wind blowing. Well,
Okay.
these with these beards, in DDO, it seems like the wind is constantly blowing them because they're curved back underneath the chin. So
It's like
the chin,
the goatee that curls down.
yeah, yeah, curls
Okay.
back and in towards your
Hmm.
throat. So
Interesting.
it's really annoying. If they had just made the beards a little shorter and hung straight down, and that, less solid looking, then I think it would have been much better. The cosmetic armors, I did like the one with the that's mostly blue. That looked pretty good. But the other one, the other one looked like, somebody made love to a stained glass window. It's just I just don't know why on earth would you have thought of that? I mean, it just didn't make any bloody sense to
I'm
me. And
guessing there's going to be something in the Feywild that maybe kind of we'll see a similarity to. Maybe I don't
okay,
know.
all right. Well,
It's a
but if
guess, but
that's the case, then I guess it's fine.
actually, the thing
But
about
it
that
just looks
armor
so odd to
that bugs
me.
me the most is the hat, the shape of the hat.
The hat, yeah, it looks especially bad on a dragonborn.
Just the fin mohawky aspect of that hat.
Hmm.
I'm just not on board with. I'm just
No,
not
I
on
hear
board with
you.
that. So,
I hear you.
uh, all right. I think I give this update a B. Um, it's like I love the raids that are in them. But there's nothing that it's a really solid update, and I really like a lot of the things. But none of them really blow my socks off.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I don't want to say B just because you said it.
Say what you want to
So
say.
yeah, no.
We can both
So
say
so so,
B.
so there. Yeah, I know we could, but I want to go through it in my mind. So yeah, so I did like the raids. Those are fine, but since they're not new, I can't really give the raids portion an A.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of where I was too. Yeah,
yeah, so we'll do that, and then the extra quest was kind of meh, so that's probably about a C there. The new class, now that you not the new class, but the new tree enhancement tree. Now that you explained your thing, that's probably also about a C. Um, and the shifters, I'm going to give them probably B as well. So we're looking at like C plus B minus, I think
sure.
is where I think I'm at.
Yeah, it feels about right. All right. Well, let's close out the show. Anything you want to plug, sir?
Yeah, I did want to plug something, and oh yes, Tuesday in America, the United States, is election day. Go out and vote. If you haven't already voted, please participate. Please get out there and vote.
And I would say I would add to that. One, vote in an informed manner. Um, and two, look at ways that you can vote. You may still be able to vote early. I know early voting in some places is closed. Um, but if you can, don't wait until Tuesday, especially if you're doing a mail voting. At this point, I would say go drop it in a Dropbox if at all
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, a lot of places the votes are due. They're actually due there at the courthouse by whatever 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. on election day.
Yeah.
They're not postmarked. They're due at the courthouse on that day, on election day. So yeah, get it done early
Yep.
if you're gonna mail in vote.
Uh, or
I
drop
guess
it
it's
in
kind of
a
too late for
box.
that now. It's Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so go down and drop it off. Yeah,
Drop it off
absolutely.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably your best bet. Um, I if you don't know how to vote in your area, this is totally outside of it. 538 has a pretty extensive list on their website, 538.com. There's not a paid promotion at all, but they have information on how to vote in different states, which you might find helpful in that regard. And hey, if you're in another country, hey, vote in your elections too.
For sure. For sure.
So, and I would always say if you can vote earlier, because stuff always comes up if you wait. So
Yeah, stuff comes up, and if you have too many people in here, and especially in this era of COVID, if you have tons of people in one particular enclosed area, for example, I mean that's obviously a danger of transmitting the disease, either whether you get it or if you have it you transfer it to somebody else. So yeah, if you can if you can get in there first thing in the morning when nobody else is there, do that. um, but if especially if you're in a high population density, like a large city like Seattle or Chicago or Philadelphia, something like that, maybe it's just better to vote early or drop your ballot off in a drop box somewhere. So
there's about 24 cities that just went. Those are big cities. Come on. Except maybe Chicago. All right. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks Arkat for joining me today. It was a good discussion. I think we had a lot of fun there. And thanks also to all other contributors for DDOcast, to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website at DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. And if you have a DDO-themed webpage, you Twitch DDO, and you'd like to be featured on our website, email us at ddocast@gmail.com. Hit us up for ddocast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. I think even the swag is back through no fault of my own. Apparently, they're being more. They've stopped thinking that it's copyright infringement. I don't know. Apparently, you can buy the swag again. So if you want you want a fancy cup or a shirt, go do that as well. If you'd like to be a part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.